Hi everyone, today I want to share the defense of my research doctoral proposal at the Universidad del Valle. For those teachers out there doing research at their schools and who are interested in implementing technology and developing critical interculturality in their English foreign language classes, I hope you can learn something from this. And for those students who are currently conducting research in ELT, I hope you can learn something from this proposal, and if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Thank you.
So I'm going to start with Dr. Liliana Cuesta Medina, who is an associate professor at Universidad de La Sabana, Chía, Colombia. She is the director of outreach and engagement of the School of Communication at the same university. She holds a PhD in English philology from the Universidad Nacional de Educación a Distancia, UNED, Madrid, España. Her research areas include, but do not restrict to, computer-assisted language learning, teacher education, content and language integrated learning, CLIL, intercultural international education, areas in which she has also directed national and international teacher development programs. Dr. Cuesta is also an active member of the Worldwide Association in the area of ACALL, ELT, and blended learning. She serves as the evaluator for the National Council of Accreditation and various assessment boards of ELT and education programs in Colombia. She has a vast experience in all of these areas. Dr. Liliana Mercedes Torres Casierra holds a BA in Modern Languages teaching from Universidad del Valle, a master's in Applied Linguistics from Macquarie University, Australia, and a PhD in Spanish and Latin American Studies from the University of Sydney, Australia. She's been a full-time assistant professor at the School of Language Sciences at Universidad del Valle since 2017. She's, at the moment, she's the academic coordinator of the EAP courses for faculty and postgraduate studies at Universidad del Valle and an active member of the research group Literacidad y Educación. Her research interests include the teaching of languages in migration contexts, foreign language teacher education, identity, and narrative inquiry. Dr. Gabriel Díaz-Maggioli is academic advisor to the Center for the Enhancement of Higher Education and a faculty member in the postgraduate programs at the Institute of Education, Universidad ORT Uruguay, where he also leads the postgraduate diploma course in English language teaching. Gabriel is a Tier 1 certified researcher in Uruguay's National Research and Innovation Agency, and his area of expertise is in second language teacher education from a sociocultural perspective. So again, thank you very much to the members of the committee. Now we'll move on to the most important part, which is the defense of the research proposal.
So all my gratitude to the Evaluators Committee. Thank you for the insightful feedback on my proposal. Your wisdom and time spent on my proposal are greatly appreciated. Many thanks also to my advisor for the guidance and support through these 4 years. And to all the members of the audience, I saw some familiar faces and names there. Thank you very much for being here. The title of my presentation is English Foreign Language Teachers Development of Critical Interculturality through ACALL in Secondary Schools in Cali. So let's get started. This is the order of the presentation. First, an introduction, followed by the problem statement, research questions, literature review, theoretical orientations, research design, ethical considerations, proposed timeline, and references. So to introduce this study, I'd like to mention some positive aspects regarding technology in English language teaching. So computer-assisted language learning from now on ACALL has been used to teach English foreign language. However, its prime goal has been language function through the communicative approach to develop intercultural communicative competence in students. The COVID-19 pandemic bolstered the emergency remote language teaching and learning, from now on ERLTL, and yielded a more positive attitude towards technology in education in the post-pandemic era, also known as the new normal. So these two are two positive aspects of technology inclusion in education, more specifically in language teaching. Although CALL has been endorsed more easily in the last years, there is a dearth of research on the intersection between CALL and critical interculturality, which I will expand later on in this presentation, especially in secondary public schools. State schools in Colombia have limited resources, and this further highlights the need for research in this area. Here are my research questions that guide this study. What views and practices of critical interculturality do English teachers develop through a series of workshops involving CALL? What views do English teachers hold of critical interculturality before, during, and after a series of workshops involving CALL? What practices do English teachers implement to integrate critical interculturality in their classes before and after a series of workshops involving CALL? To what extent is the development of teachers' views of critical interculturality reflected in their teaching practices involving CALL? The review of empirical research was organized as follows. First, regarding CALL and language function. Most studies that involve CALL targeted one or various language skills, such as reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Regarding CALL and interculturality, studies such as Howard's 2008, which used remote collaboration as a tool to improve language, remained at the relational and functional layers of interculturality. This has been true for most studies in the last decades, which have focused on developing communicative competence and contrasted noticeable aspects of culture. And third, regarding CALL and digital literacy and autonomy, studies conducted in Colombia, such as Biafra's 2011, highlighted the importance of digital literacy and autonomy for successful CALL implementation. However, they did not focus on critical interculturality. Some studies, such as Braga et al. 2015, employed curricular activities and technology in ELT. They found that in their interactions, students addressed personal and social issues. Nevertheless, they did not delve into sensitive social realities, and most importantly, the activities did not guide them to embrace critical agency. This happened because exploring these issues and developing critical intercultural attitudes was not the goal in these studies. Studies like Cohen and Calderon Aponte 2021 highlighted the need for discussions on native speakerism and linguistic imperialism. However, they did not, the main focus of those studies was not developing critical interculturality. The revision of literature let us see the research gap acknowledged in the introduction of this presentation. And with this, I can assert that in the studies reviewed, first, critical issues arose in communicative activities as indirect topics, since they were not the main objective in these studies. Critical interculturality has mainly been developed as a theory, especially at the higher educational level. And third, as a result, this study aims at taking the theory developed in the recent years in Colombia to the school teacher's practice. The theory that supports this study orbits the concepts of culture, interculturality, and CALL. So regarding culture, the concept has evolved from a technical standpoint to a critical and postmodern perspective over the last 3 decades. Scholars emphasize the relationship between culture, language, and the worldview, emphasizing the need to develop intercultural identity and overcome cultural diversity issues in language classrooms. Regarding interculturality, authors such as Walsh and Tubino may have made a distinction. First, we have relational interculturality. Relational interculturality entails the contact between noticeable aspects of culture, which entails values, traditions, and costumes. These relations can take place within equal or unequal conditions, which normalize power relations, domination, and coloniality. The second distinction is functional interculturality, which seeks the promotion of tolerance, recognition, dialogue, diversity, and cultural difference. However, this perspective does not address the roots of social and cultural divides. It's noteworthy to mention that this perspective is top-down applied, which responds to the neoliberal agenda. And the third distinction, which is the one this study centers on, is critical interculturality, proposed by scholars such as Tubino, Walsh, Granados, Beltran, among others, which is a process, tool, and a project built from those at the inferior side of the hierarchy. It aims at transforming social and institutional structures and building different conditions of being, thinking, knowing, learning, and living. It goes beyond recognizing, tolerating, and incorporating the so-called quote, quote, different into the established structures. In this regard, for transformation to take place, political agency must be exercised by going from the discourse to the question, and more importantly, to the action. Regarding call, which is the other theoretical concept addressed for this study, call is the area. So call is known as computer-assisted language learning, and is the area of applied linguistics concerned with teaching and learning a language using computing technology. It is a relevant field in language teaching that emerged since teaching languages enhanced by computers is distinctive as compared to teaching any other subject. On another front, we have atomized call. From now on, ACALL. And it is defined by Angela Jimeno Sanz as the individual technological resources that resemble atoms within the appropriate resources chosen by teachers for building coherent and scaffolded activities that respond to students' needs and technological resources, and which are introduced in the curriculum accordingly. Regarding digital literacy, I included this part thanks to Professor Liana Torres, who kindly suggested it as a reference for the professional development workshops. I will expand more on this later on. So technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge from now on TPAC is an educational approach to technology integration that involves the understanding of the interactions between content, pedagogy, and technology components that educators develop in contemporary education when engaged in thoughtful design of educational technology. The critical paradigm is an approach in the context of public education. This is the paradigm in which this study is focused on. With the analysis of power and injustice through participatory approaches to uncover power relationships within social dynamics. Participatory action research, also known as PAR, is a qualitative research design that moves from an exclusively descriptive posture regarding a phenomenon and the participants to an interventionist position from the researcher along with the participants as a team. It aims at improving the practice, its understanding, and circumstances in which it takes place. The cycles proposed in this part are illustrated in the following slide. So here are the two cycles I propose for this research. The components in these two cycles are planning, which involves there are two planning components in the whole study. In the first one, it includes the design and the piloting of the instruments. In the second one, the evaluation of the first cycle to plan the second intervention. Then we have the diagnosis. The diagnosis is concerned with asking teachers about their beliefs and their experiences regarding interculturality and also call and language teaching. Then professional development. So the professional development, as I mentioned before, entail 4 workshops. So 2 of them are going to be focused on interculturality, more specifically critical interculturality, and then two of them focus on call for teaching this critical interculturality, and more specifically ACALL, which was introduced earlier. The reflection one will entail the written reflections in journal entries for the teachers in these 4 workshops. So in every workshop, teacher participants will be asked to register their reflections, their thoughts, their learnings, and their proposals also on a pedagogical journal. Intervention one will is concerned with the application of the tools that were developed or co-constructed with the teachers in the professional development part in reflection. So the idea is that the teacher participants will co-construct 2 didactic units, one which will be applied along cycle 1, and the second one will be applied along cycle 2. And this is the first intervention. Then we have reflection 2. In reflection 2, teachers will register and they will reflect upon the first intervention. Then we have evaluation 1, and on evaluation 1, we will have a focus group, the first focus group, because the second one will be after the whole 2 cycles. In this first focus group, teacher participants and me as the guide will discuss the topics related to critical interculturality, enhanced by ACALL, and how the attitudes of students were developed through the first intervention, or what evidence can we will we be able to abstract from that first intervention. And then we have the second cycle, which is basically the same as cycle 1, but taking as reference the whole experience to improve the second intervention and the whole practice of the study. The participants of my study are 8 English foreign language public school teachers. They will be purposefully chosen by following these criteria. Public secondary schools, they must be from public schools. They must have a basic computing knowledge. What I mean by basic computing knowledge is Office software, internet accessibility tools such as Google Suite apps and search engines. This basic digital literacy is needed in order to bridge the gap between the development of the critical interculturality and ACALL. And then we have B1 or higher proficiency levels. And this is because it is the requirement for students to graduate from high school. So at least the teacher should have that level of proficiency. That's why, well, these are the main criteria for choosing the participants. I have to mention here that I included 8 participants, thanks also to a suggestion by one of the evaluators committee. Thank you very much for that suggestion. Okay, so the data collection instruments I will apply for this research are interviews, focus groups, journals, observation protocols, and documents. All right, so a semi-structured interview will be designed according to the objectives proposed and pre-piloted with a group of responding teachers. After this, the questionnaire will be shared with 2 experts. These 2 processes will help review the bias, refine the questions, and limit the length to the appropriate wording of the questionnaire itself. So this first interview will be designed to know the teacher's beliefs and experiences regarding critical interculturality, call, and language teaching. The second data collection instrument is focus groups. So focus groups are group discussions or group interviews for some authors, which emphasize a specific theme or topic that is explored in depth. Researchers are explicitly concerned to discover how the group participants review the issue with which they are confronted. In these two focus groups, the participant teachers will gather with the researcher in a central venue in the city. We will discuss the guidelines and socialize with them before every session. And notes will be taken during the session, and discussions will be audio recorded. Then we have journals. A journal connotates a personalized reflective account where participants record their own thoughts and behaviors related to a research topic or event being investigated. So teachers will write down their own analysis after each workshop regarding critical interculturality and call issues. Each participant should have at least 4 entries as a minimum. Strategies to keep teachers' interest will consist of short blocks of time after every workshop for them to write down their thoughts and reflections, and a WhatsApp group that will be created and in which reminders will be sent to them also to attend the workshops and to keep registering their thoughts on the journal. Observation protocols is the other instrument that will be implemented in this research. So observations will be conducted during the professional development and intervention stages of this study. Both participant observation, such as in the workshops, and non-participant observation, such as the ones that will be conducted in every intervention by the teacher participants. So these protocols will structure the topics to focus on and allow the registration of information orbiting the goals of the study. Documents is the last instrument that I will implement in this research. Instruments provide a range of varied and valuable information that can help researchers understand a phenomenon. Criteria to analyze documents are authenticity, credibility, in meaning, and representativeness. So I will gather data from the didactic and pedagogical documents used and elaborated by the teachers in the workshops and used during the implementation stage of the study. For selecting the documents that will be part of the corpus, I will verify the 4 criteria mentioned here, and documents produced and implemented will help verify whether critical interculturality was developed in the design of the didactic units. The data analysis consists of thematic analysis. So I will follow Claire's, Brown and Claire's perspective. They propose 6 steps for successfully developing a thematic analysis. First, preparing and organizing the data, and then exploring, encoding the database. In number 3, we have describing, finding, and forming themes, and then representing and reporting findings, interpreting the meaning of the findings, and validating the accuracy of these findings. Okay, so the ethical considerations will entail an informed consent. In this informed consent, teacher participants will be informed about all the steps and the objectives of the research, the goals to achieve, and also their role in their participation, because they will work along the researcher. In this case, me, and my role as a researcher will be to guide that process. I will assure confidentiality to them in this informed consent as well, regarding their identity, which will be kept private, and the purposes of the research will be strictly academic. I will also let them know from the beginning their freedom to withdraw from the study at any point, and that their participation is volunteer for all phases of the study. And finally, we have the timeline, which entail a year from now to start applying and conducting the workshops, the interventions, the reflections, and the evaluations, interviews and focus groups, and all the analysis that it requires until 2024. Hopefully by September 2024, within a year from now, we'll be finishing these processes. And here we have the references. I'm eager to know any questions or concerns or suggestions that the committee evaluator may have, and also the ones posed by the auditorium, the audience. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Andres. Good timing. So in the next 30 minutes, the jury is free to ask any questions or make any comments. Then we'll have 10 minutes for questions from the audience while the jury meets to decide upon the results of the defense. So who would like to start?
If I may,
Sure.
I have a question regarding the sampling. You have a purposeful sampling of 8 colleagues who are going to participate in the training you're going to provide, and you establish certain criteria for that purposeful sampling. And I know that in your research design, you're going to start with a diagnosis. Would you do the diagnosis before creating your sample, or will you do it as having started it? My question is very naive, and is like, are you seeking colleagues who actually have some background on on critical interculturality, or are you going to just choose 8 colleagues at random?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Díaz-Maggioli, for your question. I believe it's a really relevant question. So the pre-piloting will be before they are selected. I will have some kind of support from our network of teachers of foreign languages in Cali, and through that network, the plan is to contact all the teachers from public schools in Cali, from using their databases and doing a kind of selection, a pre-selection using that criteria. So because we need teachers to fulfill that criteria to have a meaningful study. Then when we have the 8 participants, we will start doing that diagnosis. So the diagnosis itself will be to know a little bit more about their experiences with interculturality, although this interculturality will not be expressed as such in those questions, because they may get lost, but through questions related to the topics related to interculturality, but specifically critical interculturality, which is the one that is still in theory practically, and has not been taken to the place of practice in schools. Thank you very much for your question.
No, thank you very much for a very clear, wonderful presentation. And I'm just bringing this up because having done research on critical pedagogies, decolonization, many times you get participants who are willing to participate, but they do not come from let's say, epistemological congruence. They may be completely opposed to working with critical approaches to interculturality. They may see them as a political maneuver, for example, and that may taint the results of the research. That is why my concern with that, with the sampling. Basically that, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question, Professor.
All right, who would like to go next?
Okay, let's bring it on, the discussion, right? Andres, thank you very
Let's
much
bring it
for
on.
your presentation. It was very clear. I echo Gabriel's comments on it. So it was interesting to see. And I guess that the adherence to the time in these type of things, it's just a plus. So you did it well. Okay, my points of reflection start focusing on the design of the workshops. And we had a very interesting, let's say, question and response along my reading to your great manuscript. So I'm thinking today, after listening to you, that I want to hear more about that. More about the workshops, more about the intervention. Although you have highlighted and included lots of the things that we suggested, I am still expectant to see how is that this intervention and these workshops. Let's only talk about the workshops. I don't have any other remarks. I had a question regarding to sampling as well, but Gabriel had very much addressed it. I would like you to elaborate on the workshops, and together with that, I noticed that you included the learner training phase, and I'm sure that my colleague Liana, with her comments on the digital literacy, I guess that we are going on the conversation, and we will be going very slowly and smoothly to the point in which we will be commenting on digital literacy aspects, especially taking into account a twofold perspective. The one that Gabriel had mentioned it to you, which is naturally following with the second, you have 8 participants with special characteristics that you had already selected, and I have no objection with that. But what you're receiving them, and you are, for the purposes of your project, but also for the purposes of expanding the scope of the studies in this area, and also, and the most important is to contribute to their professional development, you want to make an impact on them. So you receive them with certain, let's say, skills, digital literacy skills, but you want to measure them, or perhaps to see how throughout the year that you're talking about, how they improve. So having this context, I would like you to elaborate a little bit more on the workshops. What special things are you going to be working on the workshops? I know it's early in the process, but perhaps having a discussion at this point helps you and will help us to understand the scope of your project in that particular sphere. Okay, that would be my first question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Cuesta. And thank you also for all your suggestions. I didn't have enough time to mention also, I included your suggestion on instructional design for conducting these workshops. And for matters of time, I also didn't mention all the details for these workshops. So, okay, let's address first how those workshops will be developed, and then let's answer how ACALL will or will not be developed, or how or to what extent. First, so as it is a participatory action research, the workshops will be developed along with them, with the experience they have, and that's why one of the criteria is that they must have a minimum of experience in these areas. Nevertheless, as the researcher, I will guide that process and co-construct with them. For all this process, I will use instructional design, which involves the carefully and mindfully plan of like all the steps in this professional development, and it will also reflect on the didactic units that will be co-constructed with them through these workshops. The focus of my study, although I will use ACALL as defined by Jimeno Sanz as the atoms that function towards the needs of the students rather than otherwise, or just rather on focusing on call or on the technology itself. My goal is to develop in critical intercultural attitudes in the students by means of ACALL. ACALL entails all the technology that is available at the working place, or at the schools. In this case, computing technology. So computing technology is not isolated to only desktop computers or laptop computers. We all have a phone, we all have a smart TV. Any device that uses computing technology is considered to belong within call. But so specifically will be ACALL, and specifically I don't quite expect the teachers to become experts through this process, but to polish what they already know and to share what they already know. Maybe some of them will have some tools, and some others will have some other ones. And through the workshops, we will co-construct and complement our knowledges on call. I myself including that because I am an educative content creator. I have my educative website, and I have my YouTube channel as well, and even a company in which I use technology. So I will guide that process, but my main focus is not for them to become experts in call, but the idea is not to lose track of the focus here, which is critical interculturality by the means of ACALL, which means the available technology we have in public schools, which is not the same as compared to private schools. So I hope I answer your
Yes,
question.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it was not a tricky question, don't worry. It just
Okay,
aimed
it's
to
okay.
understand the intersections between your study and to the degree of impact, or let's say intervention, of this third variable, which is ACALL. If I may suggest for the future, because this is a learning exercise, since you're working and you have it so clear in your mind, especially to the way in which these variables, as I said, intersect themselves, it would help along the process that you are designing your study, designing the interventions, to design a diagram, right, in which you portray what is your contribution to the field, right? And how is that you're going to make the mixes and the blends of each one of the constructs and concepts, in the study itself. Why? Because one of the things that I really liked and praised about your study is the way how you brought the concept of atomized call, and you are elaborating on that, right? Listening to you and reading to you, I know this is about to be designed, and the purpose today is not to tell me, okay, there will be 8 workshops, each one of them is divided on these sections, but I know you're doing it. So as you are doing it, it would help a lot to see and to not lose track about the main point, which is how is that these intersect. You want to develop critical interculturality, right? You're having, let's say, an 8, which is digital literacy, an atomized goal, right? And you're seeing what happens with that. I know that this is not your main focus, but you're having an additional variable. So you have to pay attention to what happens when you are putting to the play, right, or and to the game, this third variable. Try to figure not only a way in which you know how is that from the lesson design and from the intervention design, from the instructional design, you're playing with those variables. But since, and I love the way how you picture it, because you are inviting the participants who co-construct with you, and I guess that this is what we should be doing, okay? But don't lose track. I know that you're not losing track on your main construct, but you cannot ignore the third variable that you're putting to play, okay? I don't know. I know that you don't want to make them become experts, but I'm sure that they are coming after the workshops with more learning, and that would, just like a basic hypothesis, they would know more when they leave than when they started. And just a suggestion, I know again this is out perhaps of the scope when you wrote the study, but this was another thing that like has been rounding my head these days, especially with all of the advent of AI and all of the technologies. I'm sure that teachers are going to ask you in the workshops,
Yeah.
hey, can you share with me some of the tools of AI? Perhaps some of them are already using them. And I guess that in languages, and this is a reflection for my old colleagues in this table who are wonderful, I think that we should be talking about this already in the
Totally.
languages classroom and in the intercultural classroom, because more and more teachers are into their learner training phase by ourselves. And I guess that our institution should be, caring about that. I'm not saying set all of the workshops in AI, Andres, don't take me wrong, but take some of the spaces to inquire. It would be a very interesting debate, right? Without losing the focus and the spectrum that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Liliana. Now I'd like to move on to Liana.
Yes, thank you very much, Andres, for your presentation. It was very clear and concise and on time. So I would just like to go to two comments that intersect. First, I think on the last point that Professor Liliana was raising, I think your figure 1 in your document, research cycles with their stages, I think it will be there where you could raise that contribution as well. You have 2 different cycles for your research, and there are names that are shared in between. So I think it would be useful if you had something like different labels where you specify what are those planning 1 and planning 2 specifically. And this goes to my question, which is, what type of production are you expecting from the participants? Because it wasn't very clear if they were just doing the reflective part, which is very important, but what are you expecting them in terms of contributing with you collaboratively in these looking for ways to intersect the digital and the intercultural? That would be my first question. And then I think it would be important to think, we already know there is vast research on how the instrumental use of technology is what they will raise in your workshops. For example, they will tell you, oh yes, I use this and that, I manage this and that application, or I use this and that element. But then I think your research is very important, and the contribution will be that you will try to show them how to use that technology and that knowledge as in a way of transforming their teaching practices, then you're using technology as a concept to build knowledge amongst them. So it's very important to make that difference, the instrumental use of technology and the conceptual use of technology. And I think you should raise that part, because I think that's what you're expecting them to do, to make sure that you're giving them some resources, some knowledge that you have already, but then taking that knowledge for them to produce something and do changes in their own teaching practices. And that comes with critical interculturality. So I think it's very innovative in that sense, because you're doing CALL, which has been researched for a long time, but now with the IA technologies we have, it's going to be even better for them to see reality, because they are seeing the use of technology amongst their students, amongst themselves. So I think I would like you to just give us further detail on what specific productions you expect from your participants. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. So yes, and thank you for that suggestion to make clear the awareness that technology should not be used only as an instrumental tool, but there is a bigger goal in here. So thank you for that. I will make sure it is highlighted more evidently in the whole study. Regarding the products that are expected, so in the workshops, we will not only have these reflection spaces and discussion spaces, there will be also the co-design of some didactic units. The minimum is two didactic units. One will be applied through different classes in the first cycle, and the second didactic unit will be designed after the first implementation, with the feedback of that implementation, the observations, the evaluation of the whole first cycle. We will co-construct the second didactic unit. The main foundation of those didactic units is, of course, critical interculturality, using ACALL tools, again, not as the destination, but as a conscious way of using them for raising the critical interculturality. So and that second didactic unit will be applied in the second cycle. So that's one of the products. The other one will be the journal, as you pointed out, and hopefully the idea is, as an indirect result, that they continue registering their reflection, their pedagogical reflections in a journal, which is a practice that we have been losing in pedagogy in the last years, and which may enrich our practice. So thank you very much for your suggestion and your question.
Okay, so it seems the members of the committee don't have any more questions or comments. Oh yes, Gabo.
Oh, just a piece of advice, Andres. You are generating a whole host of instruments here, from the semi-structured interview protocols to the observation protocols, the document analysis protocols. My experience has been that kind of a problem that you may come across is that sometimes the criteria do not kind of travel easily from one document to the other. And I know that your research is qualitative, but once you have basic data on the first cycle of action research or participatory action research, try to generate a short list of non-negotiable characteristics of a teacher who applies critical interculturality in their EFL classes. And from there, make sure that all the research tools are aligned so that when you get, for example, to the protocol for document analysis, you don't say, oh my God, I have to go back and include, I should have done this before in the questions. And for that, validation by external sources, I think. And don't just, in my experience, just choose the validators and send them the whole host of the instruments. Don't choose some for the interviews, some for the observation protocols. But again, I have to say, this is a pretty relevant kind of project for our continent and for education in general, above and beyond EFL. So kudos to you for thinking it over. Very contemporary topic, and I wish you the best in the data collection and analysis months that come.
Thank you very much, Professor. I took notes and I may contact you later on this. Thank you for this contribution.
My pleasure.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. So we're gonna go for a period of deliberation with the members of the committee. So I'm going to open a breakout group. And so in the meantime, I encourage the audience to ask ask questions or make comments to Andrés. He's gonna be with the audience. And so members of the committee, I'm opening the breakout group now. Please join in.
Okay, I'm so happy to see familiar faces here. Dr. Angela Castro, nice to see you. Jefferson, Hans.
Hi, Andrés, congrats.
Liana. Thank you.
I'm really happy to see you making your proposal.
Thank you very much. Claudia Cárdenas. My beautiful mom, Marta. My siblings. Professor Raúl Mora, welcome. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you here. Catalina.
Hey, Andrés. Good afternoon.
Catalina, Nancy. Carmen. You appear as Green Chronopia. I didn't recognize you by the name. Carmen, thank you for being here with me. Dr. Anne-Marie, thank you. It's a pleasure to see you here as well.
Thank you, Andrés. It was an interesting presentation on a field I know not too much about, technology, but very interesting.
Thank you very much. I wonder if there are any questions by the audience, or maybe suggestions, contributions. All of them are greatly appreciated.
Hey, Andrés.
Hi, Professor. How's it going?
Hi. It's going well. How's it going with you?
It's great. Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, good job. I mean, it's an interesting topic, interesting presentation. I think your committee already told you most of the things you have to take care of. Now, I do have one little question, and it wasn't very clear when you made your presentation. You talked both about ACALL and digital literacy, and it's going to be very important down the road to really make clear where each of them stand and how each of them help each other. And whatever you do not be careful not to fall to prey to the trap to think that they're synonyms or that they're interchangeable. You want to be very careful with that, because they both operate in the realm of the digital and online practices, but they their goals and foci are a little different. So they can complement each other, but you want to be careful not to leave the impression that, oh, for the purpose of this study, digital literacy and CALL are synonyms, because somebody's gonna go like, no, they aren't. So I would say just be careful.
Yeah, they aren't.
Yeah, but be very, because at this particular point, the use of terminology moving forward has to be surgical, has to be clinical.
Okay, got it.
And that's, I would say, that's a little piece of advice for all the doctoral students in the crowd. You can use the terminology you want, but you have to be clinical, you have to be surgical about it, because otherwise that's just setting yourself up for a bunch of really, this is not a question, it's more of a comment. So
it's a suggestion,
just to go down that line, because I'm like, no, be careful, because when I heard it, it's like, okay, is he kind of?
Maybe I was not clear enough on differentiating them in the presentation because of time.
And at this particular point, it's perfectly okay. But as you move forward, since you brought up both terms in your dissertation, it's really important to establish how they operate and how they support each other. And make that distinction clearly in your document. Otherwise, at some point, somebody's gonna take you to task and saying, you're just saying those two are synonyms and they aren't, and and it's just setting yourself up for an unnecessary debate. So that would be my
got it. Thank you very much.
My only suggestion in what otherwise is going to be, I think, as your committee already pointed out, it's going to be quite a groundbreaking study, and hopefully one that helps really expand. Because again, one of the problems with CALL vis-a-vis digital literacy is that CALL so far has always had a very limited scope. Even from the literal notion of computer assistant. It's like, okay, so even the word, even the acronym kind of narrows it down, because it's like, so can I do CALL with phones? Even something as simple as, can I do CALL with a mobile phone? Or is CALL so restricted that if it's not a computer, I cannot do it? I mean, again, I'm just being nitpicky. I'm just being nitpicky here, but your study can push the boundaries of CALL, because sometimes CALL, when I read the literature, sometimes seems a little tight,
limited.
So your study should probably just blow it up, and if you can help us with that, or at least help the people who do CALL. I mean, for full disclosure, the work I do is all in digital literacy, but I've read the literature. So I'm saying, if you can expand the boundaries of CALL, that would be an incredible contribution for the field. So definitely, I hope that's one of the things you want to do, is really not simply use CALL as one of your conceptual elements, but more like you want to use it in order to contest it, in order to, to fight with it a little bit and really get it out of break the boundaries that sometimes we see in the literature. If your thesis can pull that off, your thesis will be groundbreaking. More than it's going to be. So I would just invite you to that. I look forward to, now that I'm part of the doctoral program, academic community, I look forward to hearing about this defense in a little while.
Oh, that's amazing, Professor. Thank you very much. You honor me.
On that note, I really apologize that I won't be able to hear to see when the white smoke comes out after the deliberation, but I have a meeting. No, I have a meeting right now, so I need to bail out. So my apologies, but I would have loved to stay here.
No problem. I contact you though.
Oh, please, by all means, if you send me an email, and if you need my WhatsApp number, I think Catalina has it, so you can ask her for that number, and I'll be happy to continue this conversation. Now,
thank you very much.
I'm gonna go. In my case, it's good afternoon, because it's 5 o'clock here already. But I'll talk to you later.
Thank you very much. All right, the committee is taking its time. Any other comments? Diana, thank you. Thank you for your volunteering. It's great to know I can count on you for this research. So Hans, how's it been there in Mexico in your internship? And yeah.
Hi, Andrés. Working a lot, you know, we need to cope with the amount of hours. So it's really hard because, you know, we need to do that independent hours and the hours there at the university. But in general, Mexico is amazing. The food, the people, the places. And so I'm very happy here. Very, very
Thank
happy
you.
here. It was necessary to take this time to focus on this research and to focus on the different things we have in general with the proposal. So it was necessary to take this time to do it, because working there in Colombia is, you know, and you that you are also a teacher, it is really hard to cope with the different things we have at the same time. So of course I need to stop working there. I had to do it and to come here.
All right, that's great. That's great.
And congrats, Mauricio. It was a really good presentation.
Thank you
well
very much.
organized.
Yours as well. Congratulations. I didn't know about the Sentipensares until I heard it from you. That's
Yeah,
great. That's great.
it's very
I took notes from there.
Okay, nice. Because that's a concept that I'm still exploring. I'm just starting reading about Falsborda, Escobar, and some authors who started with this concept with the ser sentipensante, and that's very interesting. I think that would work in my study, and that was a suggestion provided by a professor here in Mexico. So it is helping me a lot.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, let's wait for the acceptance of your defense. I'm sure it will be like that. Congrats.
All right, thank you very much, and congrats also on your approval.
Thank you.
Kata, okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Kata, how are you feeling
She's
about
prepared.
your presentation?
She's
She's preparing. She's
Yeah,
having
I
her
know.
presentation this week. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, the evaluators are coming.
Yes.
All right, thank you all for staying. So after discussing Andres's performance in terms of how knowledgeable he was about his research proposal, the appropriation of the concepts, the methods, and the prospect of developing it properly, and also his capacity to answer the jury's questions. So the jury has decided that Andres's dissertation research proposal be approved. So Andres, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And
Thank
so
you.
I would like to again thank the. Oh, I would like, before we leave, Andres, do you want to say anything? Did you have any interesting conversation with the audience while we were gone?
Oh yeah. Professor Mora, before leaving, because he had a meeting, he suggested being careful establishing the difference between digital literacy and call, because some people may get confused as they. So yeah, that was the only suggestion. But he also saw great potential, and he said that in his words that I was going to break it, and that was great. That was great, like coming from such colleagues, those great comments. And then yeah, I also talked a little bit with Hans about his experience in Mexico and how he has also learned there, and how he needed this time for the internship. So yes, that was all.
Right. So with this, I would like to again thank the members of the jury, Dr. Norbella Miranda, for her wonderful work advising this project, and the members of the jury, doctors Liliana Cuesta, Liana Torres, and Gabriel Maggioli. Thank you very much for your contribution, and the rest of the people who join us today to listen to Andrés. Thank you very much.